Alright. Hello, universe. This is Hitstorm, and this will be the first in 5 video series designed to introduce myself to the community and try and spur on some discussion about a lot of what I think are the most important issues facing the game right now. Um, I'm gonna be at some point talking about all sorts of things. This first video will be about the skill revamp and the game's overall balance and how the two work together, exist together, and could maybe fix each other depending on how far we want to go with the spirit of the skill revamp. Alright, so I have a little pseudo script over here in another window, so I hope you guys can forgive a little bit of sputteriness here and there, just to keep myself going in the right direction. Yeah, um, the skill revamp, um, how should I say this? The skill revamp, you can see the new system here. It hit like a hurricane. Um, it's very lots of changes were made to the amount of oomph they wanted you to have at the base level. Um, I think maybe the difficulty brought on by Delta Rising had something to do with this, if you ask me. Um, But yeah, a lot of things were changed, and most importantly, a lot of things were put together, and a few things were separated, a few skills were separated out. I guess I should try to explain the older skill system for, anyone new to the game or, maybe some excited console players or whatnot. Um, so the old skill system didn't look like this. This is a an up and down, tiered card system where you get, you don't get a whole lot of points to spend, but what you spend gets you a whole lot of that particular thing. Tactical for your damage, science for your exotic and healing, engineering for your base power levels, um, base performance ship in ways like engines, damage resistance, some healing. Uh, to be honest, if you ask me, the engineering tract is really bland, but maybe I'll try and talk about that later. In the old system, you still had these 3 classes that separated everything out, um, but you put um, each skill, or technological element of your ship. It's kind of weird calling some of these things skills, if you ask me. But anyways, yeah, the how do I say this? Yeah, they're imagine instead of having 3 points to spend per skill track, for example, your hull healing, all these improve your hull healing, you know, um, you had 9 points you could put into hull healing. And it was on a little bar, and as you put each 3 point, the first 3 points, the second 3 points, and the third batch of 3 points would each have a different color to signify how much of a return you were getting on your point investment, and it would be green for maximum point return. You're getting a whole lot of performance for a little bit of points. Like, consider this your first 3 points in the skill. Then you get your moderate amount. Theoretically, there were problems with the old system. There were a lot of problems. Well, maybe some problems, um, functionally. And then you would have your red points, yellow points for your mediocre, medium, and then red points for your not much growth at all. And for the final 3 points, I think a lot of the skills in the system have gained strength. This feels more. I can feel this a lot more than I could feel the last 3 points in most of my weapon skills, if you ask me. Uh, but maybe others not so much. As you can see with this particular character, I can't hold myself back sometimes. I tend to try and get everything, but you know, uh, I can try and play the game properly sometimes. Uh, but um, yeah. Gosh, I just lost track of myself. I'll have to look back at this script thing here. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. So we've been given a lot less points to distribute, but we've also had the number of points per system of interest reduced. It's been good. It's been bad, but I'd say the transition was about 75% bad, as in like not worth it. Um, I don't. Well, when you go back to the RPGs where these mechanics came from, it was all about the joy of creating your play style, you know, um, and the uniqueness was the third dimension of the gameplay in that regard of the RPG. And when you squish function together, I think um, I think you lose the glory of the RPG system. You should be making your character do what you want him to do, and you know, um, for example, right off the bat, if you want to resist science abilities, maybe you shouldn't have to be able to use them so well. Like I'd rather maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'd rather just defend against science abilities than be constantly sending them out with such ruthless efficiency. That'll be a major part of this video. But maybe let's try and say that's a little bit down the road, down the chart. I should try and go skill for skill and talk about how it was and how it is now. And thankfully, a lot of these first skills will be fairly simple in that regard. Okay, I'm sorry, man. Okay, so Hall Restoration, this existed in the old system. It's probably been buffed if you go off what Bort has said so many times. Apparently, a lot of these things have been buffed. So hey, that's good. Engineering sounds like a good place for hull restoration to be. Um, um, I hear people say on the internet that science still does hull healing better thanks to hazard emitters, but uh, that's one ability. You can get that on your engineering ship. Um, it is awkward though, but hey, that's beyond me. So hey, that's there. Hey, cool. It feels hull restoration though, with how strong it is, feels like a must buy. I'll just say that right there. Especially for if you're a tanker or a healer, um, the two um, the two healing abilities are, I'd say, the best out of these for tanking, healing abilities. You know, if you're really wanting to min-max and do a lot of things with your ship, maybe only take 2 points in hull capacity, shield capacity, maybe 1 if you're tactical. But hey, yeah, these 4 hull, shield, tanking, and healing skills, they all singularly pretty much existed in the old system, and back then I considered them must-buys, all of them, and today I pretty much consider them must-buys for my engineers and healers. Um, I think this new system has forced a lot of uh, build focusing. Like, you know, you go hard into your damage or you go hard into something else. Um, because overall there are not a lot of points in this system. Um, to start off, I'd think the system could use, depending on what happens, you know, with the system, Gecko and the devs have said this stuff is subject to change, that they could change this, and it almost sounded like they wanted to do another little mini revamp to it. So hey, yeah, you know, maybe 2 to 3 to maybe 4 or 5 more points, depending on what changes within the system. Um, I'll give a more approximation of those two numbers or groups of numbers based on some stuff I'll talk about in just, you know, maybe closer to the end of the video. So yeah, here we are. This is where I'm probably gonna start getting more weird about talking about skills and the balance. Energy weapons are here, torpedo weapons are here. Um, you know, talking about combining all these things, it's kind of interesting that they didn't combine projectile and energy weapon damage. Um, and okay, I guess since this is one of the more complicated abilities and sets of changes I'd like to suggest and talk about, um, I should just try and finish up one other thing I said. Hopefully, if they would change this, the dream, of course, would to just be go back to the old system, you know, fix some glitches, give the new buffed values to the old system, maybe make some changes and additions as the balance of the game has maybe showed us to be necessary. Um, but of course, that's probably not going to happen. They've put a lot of effort into this, and they can't they can't just like go out and say, "Whoa, we messed up." Of course, that's not going to happen. Like, that's somewhat understandable, but I think within this system, there's some hope for some real good things to happen to the balance. Uh, and hopefully, if they change it, they'll give out more free respect tokens. Wouldn't that be great? I'd love one for Veritas. To 2, I'm pretty happy with. Maybe I could switch it up with him. No, I'm fairly happy with this guy. Okay, no. There's maybe one little thing. But anyways, alright. So, of course, I would like to go back to the old system or a more numerically variable system with, you know, without the combinations. So we could pick exactly what we're putting points into and just have that pure efficiency. But, well, we're here, so I'll try and they're doing a TOS expansion, so I'll try and maybe suggest how we could work within this skill system to make the game better for everyone. Hopefully. Of course, I'm just a dude. you know, like I think I don't think I haven't broken 50K on record. I think 40 something is the top I remember. I don't know, 30 actually. I think 34,000. Yeah, 34,000 DPS is the highest I can remember actually getting. But I do also PvP. Um, I'd say I'm a decent pugger at PvP, but I'm not a pre-made level player. So that's an introduction to my skill level of talking about this stuff. But I do also try to pay attention to advanced players and what's happening at the forefront of build design and what's putting out the most DPS and well, I do meet some advanced players in the queues. I don't know how high on the skill level they are, but they are in the big name fleets, and hopefully by the time this video gets up, I'll have some footage of them just destroying me. um, but yeah, that's where I'm at on skill. But let's get into the first major, balance issue I think I want to talk about here, and that's shown through the skill system and going down. Torpedoes. There's a lot of talk about how torpedoes are underpowered, or if they're underpowered, and oh, all right, yeah. So whether or not torpedoes are overpowered and what we can do for them. Um, well, I think the key is right here on the skill system. There are a few things we could do. Uh, they talk about how they want the skill system to be really simple, and to make sure that with just some base understanding of general ideas, that the use of it will yield successful results in the queues, and in the story mode. You'll be able to beat, I think, you should be able to beat advanced content with your skills and some, maybe blue very rare gear. Uh, but anyways, there are a couple of ways we could address torpedoes here. Um, if we really wanted to hold the player's hands, we could put all the torpedo damage into the energy weapon damage area, have that just boost everything, all the weapon damage. Then we could make this unique torpedo bonuses. And what that would do is it would save people um, the min-max pain of torpedo builds. Because the biggest problem, especially, and I think it's been magnified with this new system, is the investment you put into torpedo damage sucks away from your other performance in areas that could be like real key. Like uh, Tattoo could do with more hull regeneration and shield regeneration. Personally, I think these two skills are kind of weak with the way the numbers game has been evolving. But a little bit of it is good, especially when you're cloaked on the hull healing. And if you can manage to live long enough, they can be good numbers to have. But back to torpedoes. So, yeah, the torpedo build will all. Okay, well, I should rephrase that too. Is Odin Knight the God King of torpedo DPS, if you haven't heard? Um, uh, um, illuminated for me. torpedo builds are almost all torpedoes. 2 to 3 torpedoes, should be 3 torpedoes. You know, and pretty much nothing for energy weapons. And I play hybrid builds. I always thought I played torpedo builds, but truth is I play hybrid builds, of course. But I always tried to squeeze as much DPS out of my torpedoes as I could without, compromising my energy weapons ability to get through the shields and allow the torpedoes to do their thing. Um, Now, you don't need to use energy weapons to make torpedoes good, but as a Star Trek game, I think a lot of people are going to want to combine energy and torpedo weapons. And as the highest total investment you could put into damage, I think ideologically it should give the most damage returns. Um, Now, maybe that's not true, but maybe in a form it could happen. There is the difference between burst damage and sustained damage. Maybe torpedoes won't outdo, energy weapons in sustained damage and overall DPS, but maybe in a PvP match, combining a torpedo skill with a cannon skill, and hey, maybe even a beam skill, because builds are getting weird. Um, uh, Maybe maybe you could have a higher burst. Maybe you could make more of the crazy damage happen in a shorter amount of time, which is really important for DPS. Um, so yeah, I do think torpedoes should be stronger. I think you can observe on the DPS tables that they're not at the top. I think you can observe that the hybrid builds aren't at the top, though I'm not positive about that. Hearing about hybrid builds is a little less common. Um, I don't see a lot of it in the top DPSers videos, but I don't watch a lot of those either, so, well, hey. But, you know, well, this video will have a lot of hearsay in it, but hopefully I'll be able to put links in the YouTube and maybe the Twitch somehow to show backup for some of these opinions. At the very least, I could confidently say that high yield overload, slow traveling targetable torpedoes are underpowered, and that would be thanks to a recent Odin Knight video, which was very informative, great, good stuff. I learned a lot there because I don't do targetable torpedoes. I almost never have. Which is funny because I love Balance of Terror. But maybe someday they'll make TOS Romulans, and I'll finally make that Romulan Bird of Prey alt. But yeah, that's how many tangents have I gone off on now? This is terrible. But yeah, the torpedo issue is large, it's complex, and varying levels of what I'm suggesting could be done to do this. But anyways, back to the actual suggestion. Okay, so maybe or maybe not, we put torpedo damage in with energy damage to increase our cryptic handholding. And then over here, what this would become would be an exotic torpedo enhancement list. And there are a few ways it could be formed. And if we wouldn't combine torpedo damage with energy weapons, then I would suggest combining these exotic torpedo enhancements with these 3 tiers of torpedo damage. So, I'm forgetting the order that I wanted to suggest these in, but I'll talk about the theory behind the order that you would want to have them in, and hopefully that'll get that sorted out. So the first one, let's say, would be, the first one needs to be something that every torpedo user would benefit from. Because it's the first point you put in there. But you could be coming into torpedoes from any sort of build angle. You could be a healer tank torpedo. You could be a side torp boat. Those are really popular. Um, you know, you could be a Romulan Vapor or something. But at each stage, the bonus to torpedo, the exotic bonus to torpedoes in order to help balance the game would become more specialized. But the first one is the broadest, and it has to be the one that helps every type of torpedo user. Now that I've said that in 3 different ways. Um, so I would say that the first one would be maybe a combo of two things. Because as the Odinite showed, no, Odinite torpedo showed me, the high yield targetable torpedoes are in a bad place, but they're also their own type of torpedo build. They're their own angle that you can take in the game. So it was going to be a lot easier for me to call this first one, but learning about that has made it more difficult. And the only solution that I can really say is give the first one two exotic elements. And that would be the first, increase speed of targetable torpedoes. Everyone wants speed for their targetable torpedoes more than HP according to Odinite, so I'll put that there over that. But I will also say that some extra HP for your targetable weapons, if it happened enough, and if it happened in enough passive ways that were just like really easy to incorporate into your build, like you didn't feel a lot of loss, um, some HP I think could help the targetable torpedoes in PvE. In PvP, no amount of health given to targetable torpedoes is going to help them be more successful. That's just probably not going to happen. That's the ugliness of that. Uh, you know, and there we just have to blame it on Balance of Terror. They made this thing such a fun part of Star Trek combat, but um, can we ever escape the growth of player damage uh, in PvP? Probably not, especially with niche stuff like targetable health bonuses. So speed would be the thing to do, but you don't want the speed to go too far. Like a lot of people are saying that there's a thread that Odinite highlighted saying torpedoes in general need more speed, and he suggested a lot of ways to do it. And what I'm suggesting here in this first tier would be kind of similar to that, but not nearly as game-wide affecting as what he was hoping for. I do think there should be a limit to your overall torpedo speed. I don't think they should be traveling faster than energy weapons. That's just not the way things looked in Star Trek, so hey, uh, you know. But I wouldn't mind some speed bonus for torpedoes, so hey, okay, let's let's make the first exotic thing would be like say a 20% speed bonus to all torpedoes, and maybe like granting your speed to the torpedoes. Um, but yeah, the second one would be the fun one, and this would be the one that almost all torpedo users would want. Um, the second one would be uh, secondary target acquisition. Now, that's the good thing about the high-yield targetable torpedoes. They can acquire a new target after the first one is destroyed. Now, I think all torpedoes should be able to do this because these are smart weapons. you know, it's the future. But hey, if we want to stick it in the skill system to help balance the game or whatever, uh, cool. You know, maybe, uh, you know, I think it could be fun. It seems like they wanted to add unique special things to the skill system. So, you know, some of what I suggest will be in a similar vein to that sort of thing. Um, yeah, the if you even look at the missiles of today's military, they have something called a data link, and that allows the missile to be basically controlled after it's been launched. So, say if one of your targets has been destroyed by one of your other missiles or a friendly's missile, you know, you can send your missile at another target, you know, midway. Um, that's today. That's our technology today. So why are, you know, these torpedoes flying off into the cosmos with their their literal payloads of mass destruction? Um, but hey, maybe we could just put it in a skill, and maybe if we put it in a skill, we could make some sort of um, HUD, or no, like here we go. Yeah, maybe we could make some targeting options for torpedoes, maybe some targeting priorities for torpedoes for their secondary targets. That would be really cool. Uh, but yeah, um, as a secondary. And then the third thing would be the thing that's only for tactically minded torpedo users. Because as we get further into the tactical investment, we put more into this tactical string, which will push our build in an offensive direction, most likely. You know, definitely some serious offensive things happening there. Um, so the third one, and you know, yeah, I hope you can feel what I'm saying here. Uh, the third one would be the thing that a lot of torpedoes users have been asking for: increased torpedo damage to shields. You know, it could be considered some, you know, shield weakening, but if you ask me, shield weakening is already weak in the first place because shield hardening gives a larger bonus to your damage negation than shield weakness gives a bonus to your damage. So what I was really hoping for with this, you know, part of the balancing attempts of this skill revamp was that shield weakening would allow torpedoes to be successfully used against shields, but that's not really happening. It helps, but it's not really happening. So maybe through extra investment, you know, extra bars or point investment over this, you could bring torpedoes to a place where they um, be more balanced. You know, they do what they're supposed to do. You know, blow the hell out of stuff. You know, torpedoes are just so awesome. Star Trek 6 at the end, you know, General Chang says to be or not to be. Excuse me. But and then the torpedo hits. You know, it's like to be or torpedo. You know, uh, yeah. So the last part was said a lot easier and quicker than I thought it would be. But yeah, I'd like to see those things worked in with torpedo damage or into the game, hopefully some way. It'd really help in that regard. Um, Yeah, lock on after launch would help pet clearing so much. Um, man, just like okay, torpedoes will, they can't be the fastest thing in the game because that just wouldn't look Star Trek, but if they do hit, let's let them hit hard. And let's do what we can to make sure they hit within reason. Um, yeah, maybe one of those could be replaced with some torpedo cooldown reduction. You know, there isn't a torpedo user alive who wouldn't like to replace one of his cooldown torpedo doffs with a crit torpedo doff or something. But yeah, I'd like the three I suggested before that way more. Um, and I think in that order they'd help the other builds investing in torpedoes for whichever reason. Um, okay, so let's move on to this next skill, the lieutenant commander skill. So we've got electroplasma, which can help your power regeneration, key and foremost for DPSers. But I think yeah, I'm not too worried about that, especially on my Ox to batters who, you know, um, can maybe sometimes benefit from an Ox energy bar that's refilling slowly. Sometimes not, but hey, we all try to game the game in this great game. Um, yeah, I don't know, uh, like it's not worth it. Sorry. Um, yeah, electroplasma systems existed and was isolated as it is now. Now it's in one of these cool little pyramid skill sets, which I think are really fun to branch things out. Um, yeah, that's the way it was. I used to get electroplasma flow, before other things became more important in the way that they were combined. But now I just don't. Oh, c'est la vie. There's nothing you can do. Advanced impulse. Yeah, this stuff. It was a must-buy for me then. It's a must-buy for me now, mostly because of the turn rate. But speed has become so important in this game. It's become so important. If you even want to hit your enemies, you have to be fast these days. Especially with torpedoes. And that's another big part of balance that maybe could address torpedoes in a way. Maybe the difference between the speed you can achieve in a hyper impulse engine versus a combat impulse engine is a little too large. These people in PvP, they go so fast that they can be in and out of your sensor range in seconds, fully combat effective. Um, it's insane. Like, and then like if your build has you working with one of these, it's just wow. It's a rough, but it can be a really rough place to be. So two handles it okay because he's a tank, a bit of a tank and a healer, but yeah, it's speed is in a place that's yeah, that's the other reason I don't think, or speed at least need to has have a limit of what you can impart on your torpedo. If you put speed into your ship speed into torpedoes, there needs to be a limit because player ship speed is totally crazy right now. Totally super crazy. Um, but hey, let's get skill. Gotta turn good. And I like that it's isolated, but and let me just say that that's another part of the reason that I'd say that 75% of the change has been bad. You know, a lot of the must-buy skills are still isolated, and they've added a bunch of must-buy skills, it feels like. Um, but anyways, let's continue. Oh geez, maybe I could do this. Targeting and defensive maneuvering, still isolated like they were in the old system, still good stuff. Still must-buys to me. Uh, you know, defensive also helps you negate those crits. But okay, well, I've got to talk about it. It's just gotta happen, and it's gonna be ugly. Um, Jeez. The size spam abilities, control and drain. Um, Man, where did we go so wrong? Geez, these things absolutely ruin PvP in the hands of a good player. Um, and now everything that boosts the size spam abilities has been buffed to buff half of all other size spam abilities, basically. And these people get resistance to size spam, and they've become, for tanks and healers, I think, for almost anyone, really, must buys. You know, the like your procs that do these effects can do terrible things just by putting 2 points into these bad boys. And it's been rough on PvP. It's taken my PvP builds in a place I don't want to go, to an extremity I don't want to go, man. You know, like my torpedoes will be putting out these sorts of things, and I didn't intend for it to be like a monstrous application, like of say a uh, viral load torpedo, but that's gonna be almost what I'm putting out with the maximum skill investment possible. And why do I really have these skills? Because I want to defend against them. Because I don't want to have these terrible things happen to me. So, what I would recommend to do to fix this situation within the system would be to turn these pyramids upside down and rearrange the skills somewhat. So, with an upside down triangle skill, you would have two options, and then one option here. And I don't know whether or not you should have to buy both the top options in this theoretical situation to get access to the bottom skill in this reversed triangle setup, but you know, maybe I can work through that. So with these side spam abilities and the upside down triangle, you would have one here that did offensive side spamming, then you would have one here that defended against side spamming. In this way, if you wanted to defend, you could only invest 1 point into this science skill and get what you need. Then you could have a buffed psi spam and maybe, you know, or you could have psi spam for the other side and then the exotic ability at the bottom, or maybe combine the exotic ability with the improved control expertise if you still want the 3 point investment for everything. Um, yeah. So I'd love it if we could separate the defensive and offensive um, intentions of this of these skills. Maybe for those who just want to defend themselves against it. Because let's be honest, the defense we get from these anti-spy spam abilities is less than the amount of psi spam damage boost you get or effectiveness boost you get. Um, and you know, in my engineer, my Fed engineer Ray, who you know should have nothing like power problems, he's got maximum psi tanking. you know, spec'd out in his skill points too. But you know, a good drain build can still shut him down completely, and if he uses his two energy abilities, Nadion Inversion and the Power Boost, he'll these drain abilities can still bring him down to a point where he's barely got any power going and can't really be an effective fighter. Um, and with the AOA of Drain and the positional control of Psy, uh, you know, Psy has just been put in such a wonderful position to be effective at this game. Especially when you've got the specialization bridge officer abilities factoring into it, which are adaptable and can do all sorts of things. You know, and if I'm not mistaken, Psy has become the king of PvP. Uh, and, you know, so maybe part of addressing that would be buffing the defense and maybe lessening the investment into defense. Um, and hey, maybe offensive side players don't want to defend against that stuff. You know, that's their choice. You know, it might give them a little bit more ability to get in on some of this stuff. And now, personally, I think these things are super whack, but I'll probably get into that later. The final bits about what I'll say about hopefully what could change with Psy to maybe bring it down a notch. Let me just talk about tractor beam repulsors for 1 minute, and then I'll give up on talking about Psy being OP for a little bit. Tractor beam repulsors, what I hope would be done with those is let's add another bridge officer ability to the game called magnetized tractor beams. And let's have it be a 2 tractor beam attractor like you get with the Voth duty officer who reverses your tractor beam repulsors. And let's give that Voth duty officer a different ability. You know, and hey, make it boost tractor beams, whatever. I'm sure tractor beamers would love that, especially if, well, overall, I'm trying to, you know, make this a nerf, but you know, that might be a good side. Basically, you with with tractor beam repulsors the way they are now, you've got one ship that can positionally control 3 other ships, and that's the absolute smallest minority of a team controlling a majority of the other team in a basic PvP match. That's I think that's OP. Hopefully, getting it down to 2 beams would help. Um, you know, it'd give the attractors, you know, which are a nice DPS option to a larger amount of size ships. You know, it'd take a little bit of strain off that whole exchange build setup fee. Yeah, like a really good side team together can get a bunch of guys with, you know, reverse tractor beam repulsors and pull you in circles around a gravity well and a Tychon's Rift and all sorts of other messed up psi spam and intelligence spam. And I think it's the worst thing in the game for PvP right now. Because it's also doing a ton of damage too, and maybe not in PvE, but in PvP, the bleed through damage is out of control. It's so good. Um, But maybe I'll get to that when I get to particle generators on this skill system. Let's move to Commander. A lot of good stuff in Commander. Damage resistance, I like how this happened. Um, well, we've got a combination here. Armor plating, or no, does this give both? Yeah, this does give both. Okay, yeah, so damage resistance used to be separated into energy damage resistance and kinetic damage resistance. And now we've had something of a combination of the two, which has made the damage resistance overall a stronger investment. And I thought pretty much damage resistance was, pretty much a must-buy in the old system too. Um, but the kinetic damage resistance, a long time ago, I didn't used to think it was a must-buy, but I think it's grown in utility. Torpedo is a lot more popular these days, still, so hey. Uh, you know, it's sad that they've been smashed together, but hey. Health regeneration. Yeah, I kind of talked about this earlier. Not super impressed. It's isolated just like it was in the old system. Nice. Um, Shield regeneration isolated pretty much just like it was. Okay, great. Um, a new skill, shield hardness. Probably maybe the best shield hull or tanking thing now. I'd place this above capacity probably, but they're both good. Yeah, restoration, capacity, and shield hardness. Maybe in order. I'd go maybe, I might go, depending on the content, I'd go restoration or hardness first, and then capacity at the bottom. But the first 2 points in capacity, pretty good. Um, yeah, I already mentioned it against torpedoes. Interesting. I like that it's in the game. I like that shields have gotten that more complex, and that that's a core part of the game now. Um, yeah. We've got what is this? Our crit D and our crit H isolated just like they were. No, but they have been combined somewhat. I think it used to be energy crit D and torpedo crit D separated. I'm not sure about. No, 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 no. No, they're isolated just like they were, I think. I think the bonuses have gotten bigger, which is nice because I think there are a lot of builds that have trouble doing the DPS they need to. So, buffing the damage you have access to is a decent way to deal with it. Um, so yeah, hey, alright, Captain, real awkward on this one, because here we have engineering power and some other things. Engineering power. I like what they did here, actually, with power, you got your warp core potential over here, I think boosted from the original effectiveness. Fairly decent investment. And then you've got mixed power boosts, but I don't know how I feel about that. Like, if we could separate the power boosts we want, that I think would be ideal. But in retrospect to my original thoughts on this, maybe being able to customize your power levels in the power tray uh, helps you deal with that. Maybe that's functionally something you can deal with. Now, in a more traditional system, that wouldn't be something you'd have to deal with. but credit where it's due. Hey, um, yeah, decent power gains at almost all levels. Um, I'll get into that later. Exotic particle generator. Yeah. Ooh, I'd say maybe it's too strong. Maybe it's part of what makes Psi too strong. There are so many things boosting it these days. That bleed through damage a Psi can get is absolutely crushing. Um, it's hull healing and hull tanking is almost completely taken over Satu and Ray's builds in PvP for the defensive traits I pick. I used to value shield healing a lot more, but now like either it's some DPSer who can burn through shields effectively, or it's a Psi guy who doesn't care about your shields. So yeah, it's maybe it's too far. It's really interesting what they're planning to do with feedback pulse. Make it a reflection of the energy weapon damage type that you use to elicit the feedback pulse. Now, ultimately, I don't think that's going to stop Veritas from blowing herself up. I don't think that's going to stop Raijin from blowing himself up. And every now and then, it's not going to stop Rayer or Tsu from blowing themselves up. Um, but it's a start. Um, yeah, side damage. It's so strong. It's so strong in PvP. Um, yeah. New skill. This is a big part of what I would call the balance addressing aspect of the skill revamp. Long range targeting sensors. Um, and so what these do is they reduce the damage penalty of distance, which is great. Really useful, really huge damage boost. If you ask me, because combat happens at all speeds and all ranges these days. Um, Especially in PvP, you cannot distance yourself properly anymore. This is a must-have PvP skill. Um, it's good. I like that it's in the game, and I really like that they evened out the damage penalty for distance from cannons and beams. Although, to be honest, I think there was cannon support for the idea that cannons would be a short-range weapon, ideally, but you know, well, maybe support is a strong word. Maybe cannon. How do I say this? Never mind. But uh, yeah. Oh, hull penetration is another new addition to the skill system. I'm okay with it. Well, I actually I don't really know why it's there. I don't know why it needed to be put in. It's just another. It's silly if you ask me, but like we're. I've got my ablative, ablative quantum torpedoes. Yeah, what? Ablates the quantum accelerating particles directly into your hull that's below the ablated hull. Uh, silly. But hey, it's there. Maybe this could die to give torpedoes another skill thing if it was integrated into something else, or if the damage was somehow integrated into something else. Shield weakening. I wish it was buffed, especially for torpedoes. I think this is a good addition though, because well, Okay, shield weakening with the damage bonus it gives is a good addition to high damage builds, but I wouldn't say it's a good addition to anything that can't afford to put a point or two into the crit skills, and maybe a point or two into hull penetration. Well, maybe not hull penetration. Who knows? 'Cause I don't know how much this helps. I don't know the hull penetration numbers too well. But there, it's hard for me to even see why it exists when, other things can give you more damage bonus. Sneaking past the shields could be a real attractive thing to a lot of people, especially the torp boats. But maybe the torp boats are not wanting to put too much into tactical for some reason. Um, that's theoretical. Maybe, gosh, is there how do shield? What else do shields like help protect you from? It's unique. Well, hard to say. So yeah, maybe we could buff shield weakening. Um, all right, we're getting here to the last set, and it's gonna be tough to break this stuff down because there's real sweeping change I'd like to make here. So engineering really suffers, I think, from not having a lot of great stuff. So let's make a new engineering skill. Let's just make one up for fun and for balance. You know, it's tough being an engineer. You can't be the best at anything other than tanking theoretically, and Psy might still do that better. Um, but let's see here. Okay, so first off, warp core efficiency. I almost wonder why this just didn't get put in there somewhere. It's pretty weak. No idea why it's a general ability. um, but anyways, um, so engineering could use something sweet, right? So let's make a new engineering ability called programming. And programming would give you a bonus like inspirational leader to the trait and everything, but it would be a small bonus, like, you know, uh, maybe per skill branch bar, maybe 5%, or like plus 5 or plus 10 value in everything per bar. Um, Maybe the readiness abilities would need to be isolated out of that. Personally, I don't think they should, but I guess I should explain what programming would be. Basically, engineers and engineering ships are the cruisers, right? Engineering ships are the flagships, the beacons of the fleet. An engineering ship has to be able to do everything basically to the max, ideologically in the spirit of the IP. The Enterprise. So programming would be your captain's ability to optimize his ship for performance in all regards, because he would be better at making his ship operate, um, at the very base meaning of that word. It would probably have to be a general or fleet admiral level ability or something. Basically, you become a programming genius at the highest forefront of you know um, academia at the time, and you make your ship work better in every way that you can, and yeah, I think that'd be cool. You know, spruce up the engineering, give them a little something extra to buy that's not just some juice and some power thing that, like, you know, some min-maxer probably isn't going to leap for. Um, you know, it'd probably become a must-buy skill, but again, I'm advocating that we get like 2 to 5 more points to drop in this, you know, maybe even more, depending on how things change. Uh, yeah. Um, is there anything else I should say about programming? Um, Maybe it could be called command or leadership, you know. Uh, when the engineering ships are, because none of these are technically commands, so we don't have any obligation in modern STO to say that any of these would be a base command color. Yeah, I think it could be engineering, you know. They are the cruisers. They are the capital ships. But hey, okay, let's move on to the other general things. You know, readiness. Not for me, probably. I do Oxtabat on this guy. Readiness is interesting that they put it in. I do think it's interesting. Um, Here's a unique thing. I think this is a must-buy. Very good for tanking. You know, because those crit hits that you find on yourself will be big. You know, almost regardless of the content now. So that's good stuff. Don't nah, not for me. Uh, as little as the cheese as I can keep myself from. Yeah, that general is goofy. Like a lot of these abilities aren't super desirable if you ask me. Like readiness maybe, but you know, that's so ship dependent. Readiness, like that is really ship dependent. Like whether or not you would want to invest in that. So I don't like, yeah. Coordination protocols though. Let's see here. This is the pet one. Gives you all sorts of pet bonuses, and I think it stacks with your team if they have it too. They give you like a smaller bonus if they have it to your pets. Maybe this should have been in the command specialization? I don't know. I don't ever use it on anything, but I don't have any dedicated carriers either, so who knows? Um, whether it's a good addition or not, who knows? Um, it's interesting. You know, carrier skills. You know, we could stand to have more, I guess. Um, yeah, and yeah. So, and the biggest problem I think is that there are these bars. I think these bars were a huge mistake. I think there are so many skills that are so key that are hidden in here, like batteries. Those can get you some really interesting things. Um, but like, but you have to pick it over something else. And like this other thing might have also been lifted off the old skill system. Like that's a lot of subsystem repair. But yeah, these things, uh, like one of them is almost assuredly not worth it. The engineering one, according to you know a lot of high level players. This one can be good, and this one is okay, or it's fairly decent. But yeah, let's look through more of these. That's nice. You know, maybe this sort of thing would be more along the lines of what these bars could be providing, like non-gameplay altering things, non-forcing, maybe not forcing gameplay skill choices on us through, one or the other picks would be really great, if you ask me. Like Starship Stealth, that's a must for your Vapor, but shield capacity is, really valuable too. Um, like I could use both on Satu, but I don't think I need this extra 1% torpedo crit H, but I can't put it up there. Um, yeah, this unique skills that aren't found at all on here almost assuredly need to be put back up here. Maybe they can be enhanced in some way to justify it. Like, okay, let's take Starship Stealth for example. Or where's this? It's on the science track. I know it's the number 2 one. Your Vapor is gonna have to have that much science things. And I think there's some good science stuff that makes, that you can justifiably buy, but I don't think you should have, your Vapor shouldn't have to have science qualifications to, be a super cloaker. The cloak is a part of the build design. But, okay, yeah, so cloaking. How could we enhance cloaking? Alright, maybe have 2 bars for the cloaking quality, and maybe 1 bar for, um, we can't do extending the damage of cloak damage, because that's a bridge officer, thing. How do we enhance the essence of cloak? Or maybe there's a thing that we could do for all cloakers and maybe a thing we could do for just vapors. Get like one of those up and down triangle reverse things going. Um, hmm, cloaking. Gosh, that's a real tough one. Okay, one could be, slow diffusing, one exotic cloak bonus could be a slow diffusing cloaking field where you get a dropping defense bonus over time after your cloak is done or something. Or after you decloak, you have a disappearing defense bonus. Another exotic thing you could do for cloak, let's see, think. Hmm. You'd want to do something for the vapors. Uh, Maybe reduce the recharge time of your battle cloak, or of your cloak. There isn't a lot of, cooldown time on a cloaking device, but when you're a vapor, it can be too much time. Uh, you know, Maybe if you've got some funky aux power going on, that can be especially true. But there. Let's, yeah. Okay, so there's let's see if I can find some other things that would need to get pushed back up into the skill system. Batteries probably. Batteries should probably be squeezed back up there. Um, Geez, maybe combine batteries with um, what's it called? The one that makes your warp speed faster in sector space. Yeah, it's the skill that would boost this. Basically the same thing, but it was said technically in a different way on the old skill system. Gosh, your drive recoil, that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe combine your drive recoil and batteries and get it back up here somehow. Drive recoil, yeah, kind of sounds like your warp core. Where do you store your energy in your spaceship? Your warp core, I think. Uh, I've probably exceeded my creative uh, ability for this video, so I probably won't try to come up with anything exotic for such a combination. But, hmm, who knows? Who knows? Alright, so, subsystem repair I think you have in drain resist or something. That's just subsystem power. Stealth I talked about. Perception. I think this is in control or drain. That you get that. Oh no, wait, that's a unique perception. Oh, see, this is a unique perception boost. Yeah, that's a very hard choice to make for people. I would imagine. But okay, so then we get into tactical hang, but yeah, threat control. Threat control could be put back up there. I bet the devs would love to create something exotically weird for threat control. Um, Hanger weaponry could maybe be combined with hanger. Well, we basically already have hanger health and weaponry right there. Never mind. This stuff. Why did I pick? Just for the record, I picked critical chance because I thought it was a better ratio of change from a base crit H modifier versus the crit D modifier that we get there. I don't know if it's actually better. Who knows? I should probably ask someone about that. Yeah, I guess that's all I can say about that. Ultimately, I think that stuff was largely a mistake. And I think um, the way that I think we've also had a lot of our bridge officer manual training that's become way more awkward, I think, too. Well, maybe less so. Maybe we can make more manuals, but I feel like I'm not making all the manuals I want to be making with these characters. Uh, that's just ugly. Mm, yeah, like, ugh. Well, let's check back up on this script, the pseudo script thingy I've got here, and see if I've talked about everything I can. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, wow, it's yeah, that's pretty much go up and down my opinions on the skill revamp. Trying to think if I should add anything else. Oh, I should come up with some sort of yeah. Let me try and conclude upon this. Make some sort of conclusive statement. Yeah, the three-fourths bad thing really hangs with me in this analysis. But of course, they can't change it back to the way it was or make something more like the way it was, probably for a long time. So, I tried to suggest some cool things they could do there. Um, don't really feel like I have the control, the choice that I had um, back with the old builds. But there's some good. There's some good. And I guess that's it. First video in the series. Yeah. kind of crazy to think that it's over already. Probably gonna have to get weird with that editing at the end of this. Trying to end this is, wow, I did not think about ending this video at all. Um, yeah, well, let's see here. I need to get some threads together to try and support my conclusions, but mostly you could probably just watch the last 3 or 4 episodes of the show by Odin Knight and Sarcasm Detector and those guys, Pal Gaming and whatnot, Zeph, um, the gosh, yeah, the other ones too. They're funny. Um, yeah, they've talked about some things. They've talked about side dominating the PvP. They've talked about Torps being whack. There is debate about how whack the Torps are, though. Hopefully that wisdom can be applied to the suggestions I'm making it cryptic. You know, that'd be the dream. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. It's been fun. It's good to finally get it all out there for the skill revamp and how I feel, get it organized in one place. Maybe I should talk about the rest of the videos that are coming. Uh, yeah, they're going to be all over the place on subject, but you'll probably just have to wait till each one is released to see what it'll be. Um, you'll probably see the trends of this video carried on over to the other ones. I'll try and be as critical as I can, and you're probably going to hear some weird rants and a lot of off-topic discussion thrown in for absolutely no reason. But I can't wait to talk about those things too. Yeah. Hit me up in the comments for elaboration on anything. Thanks for watching. See you later.